All yours, John.
Okay, just a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Anybody? We're all good. Okay, good morning. And I was thinking as I was coming here this morning, if this was live and you had to make your way to the building, you likely wouldn't come. So here's one of the gifts of COVID and the Zoom connection. We have people on the screen from various parts of the city, I believe, and even someone from near Red Deer is online here. So the silver lining in this COVID experience is that we're able to connect people from a distance quite easily. I would want you to know that this week would not happen if we didn't have Dalton Harding. Dalton is an amazing organizer, secretary, president, CEO, backroom person of making this week happen. And he's been exceptional. And I really appreciate his leadership. And I will look forward to him taking me down on the pickleball court any day. That would be great fun. I'll look forward to that. And yes, we did go for a walk. I don't know how I put my hand up and said yes to leading this with not knowing anything about what I was stepping into. I've been part of some of the speakers already and the opening ceremonies a few days ago, and I'm so impressed with our city and the leadership in the Interfaith Council and the work that they do. And it's about building bridges and connections. And I've been inspired by the people I've had a chance to hear from. And I'm privileged to share a little bit about the United Church this morning. We'll do 15 minutes and then 15 minutes because I really want to be engaged with you and hear what your questions might be about our United Church. It's almost impossible to think that any one United Church is the United Church. And so I'm going to say a few words about where I serve and then try to go quite broad about the United Church of Canada. So I serve at Hillhurst United Church in downtown Calgary in Kensington. I was ordained in 1988 and moved from downtown Toronto to a rural church, serving 3 rural churches in the northern part of the province, which actually central, just north of Edmonton. I was 4 years there, and these small little rural churches is the United Church of Canada in many ways. And I served there for 4 years. Then I moved to Deer Park in the city in the southeast of Calgary for 10 years. Then I left the United Church and worked with the United Way of Calgary for 3 years. And then came here 16 and a half years ago, which is a long time, at Hillhurst United Church. And when I got here, I found a church that was ready to grow and change and move. And I had the privilege of following Karen Holmes, who had laid the groundwork for me to step in and offer leadership. Our church has 4 core practices or values. I believe that faith communities, when they know what they value, then they can focus their attention on what they're doing. And I encourage all United Churches to do this. Our church is named 4 practices. One is hospitality. We recognize that hospitality is part of the Christian tradition. It's a biblical tradition. It's a call to be open and welcoming of others through food and drink. In particular, we embody that practice of recognizing that once we share food together or drink, we are changed because we're engaging one to another. So I'm very glad that you've got your coffee wherever you are, and that I can see that hospitality that you have to take for yourselves this morning. The second practice at our church is spirituality. We recognize that not all people are religious, but all people are spiritual. And so we try very hard to honor that by offering leadership in programs to nurture people's soul life. And this has been an aspect of the growth of this church, is to recognize that religion has a challenging name for many people. There's a lot of bad Christian religion. I can speak of my own tradition in the world. And part of our job is to try to provide healthy and positive understanding of the Christian faith. And so spirituality is our second value. I would say that I'm a spiritual and religious person. Spirituality on its own can be breath and life-giving, but it also could be egocentric and self-serving. And so religion provides the word legere is part of the word religion, means to bind together. And we are bound together in our tradition around singing, prayer, speaking, doctrine. And religion binds us together in a positive way, but of course, religion can be negative and can be very judgmental and also aggressive. And so the key word for me is spiritual and religious. I like to believe that I'm a person who is both. The third practice at our church is social justice. We believe that it's one thing to sing things on Sunday, but you've got to take your faith out into the world. And so we're very active in social justice or public theology in the world. A few years ago, we realized that we were taking lots of risks, and that was a good thing. In fact, that was a call of Jesus. Be not afraid to speak up and out in the world. And so our church seeks to embody risk in what we try to do. So the practices of our church are hospitality, spirituality, social justice, and risk. There's a banner out front of our church that says, whoever you are, wherever you're at, join us. And I believe we mean that. We try to be stretched and welcoming to all people from varying perspectives. This Hillhurst United Church, although this is not fact, the phraseology I use, a third of us grew up in the United Church, like myself. A third of us were former evangelical community or Catholic community. And now a third of the church is atheist or agnostic. There are people who are not sure at all. And so our church welcomes the gift of each of the traditions, I would say, of the third, as we seek to be faithful in the world. Key practices in our Hillhurst United Church are the contemplative movement. We are very aware that the contemplative path is growing in the public sphere, and we are recovering it from the tradition within the church. In particular, the contemplative school of Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr, Franciscan priest, and the Center for Action and Contemplation is a big part of the leadership. As an example, there was a gathering every morning in our church at 7 a.m. online. Somewhere between 20 and 30 people gather in contemplation. It's a big part in the heart of our church. Second, I would say, is our social justice ministry and our affirming work to be engaged with LGBTQ+ and in social justice activities, whether it's environment or homelessness, etc. And so we're very engaged in a public way. So that's who we are as a church. I'm sorry I apologize, but I don't, for saying where I come from, in the sense that you need to know where I speak from. All United Churches are different. The United Church of Canada was born in 1925. And so we are a national church. I believe there are 25 of the United Churches within the city of Calgary. They are all different, and yet they are all connected to the United Church of Canada. I need to show a slide. So thankfully I have a person here. So I want to look at our creed and our crest. That will help you understand the United Church. So the crest of the United Church is present there. And we are a combination of the Methodist Church that joined us. And they are represented with the dove. The burning bush is the Presbyterian Church, and the Bible, the Congregational Church, joined us together, making us the United Church of Canada in 1925. Then in 2012, the crest was changed, and you'll see the colors of the Indigenous community in 2012. The words in Latin that all should be one is the United Church of Canada, and in the Indigenous language, all my relations. And so the church is a gathering of the Congregational, Presbyterian, Methodist communities coming together. And what that means is that there is diversity. I just need to move this. There we go. I'm going to slide this over here. So that's the creed of the United Church of Canada. Oops, how do I move this? So the creed that came out in 1968 is here, a new creed. You may be familiar with it. And I just want to walk through. This is the statement of our national church, and we share this creed once a month at our baptism service in our church. It is, we are not alone. We live in God's world, and we believe firmly this is God's world, not our world. We believe in God who created and is creating. And so God is the creator for us, known in many different names: Father, Mother, Spirit, Friend, Companion. the many languages of the Bible that speak about God. Jesus is central in our church as the one who points to God, who helps us understand who God is, who through his sayings and teachings and incarnation speak about God and our call in life. We call that the Word made flesh. That's from John's Gospel, that it's in the incarnation in the person of Jesus that we get a sense of what God is like and who we are called to be, to reconcile and make new, and who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation. This line was added later. I can't remember the exact year, but a recognition that we are called to live in respect in creation. There are two creation stories in the Bible. One talks about having dominion over creation, and the other talks about cultivating and taking care of the earth. And so care of creation, seeing our place in the world and the creative world, is key theology within the United Church of Canada. We're called to love and serve others, taking the greatest commandment there, to love and serve God, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus crucified and risen, the pattern of life, death, and resurrection, and both the personal life of Jesus and the pattern of crucifixion and resurrection is key within our understanding of the patterns of life. Our judge and our hope is key phrase for us. We are called, and God is both our judge and our advocate, and that's important theology for us. Life, death, and resurrection. God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. So this creed is a phrase that we invite people to read. And if we had time, we would invite you to think about which word matters most to you or speaks to you this day. But it's a creed that is celebrated in most often in our church at times of sacrament. I'm going to take 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to invite you to ask me questions. Our United Church is non-hierarchical. That is, the decision-making takes place at what's called a General Council that meets every 3 years. A combination of lay people, you can take a combination of lay and ordained or commissioned people. So the decision-making is not made by the ministers, but a combination of lay and ordered folks. The leader, a spiritual leader of our church, is called the moderator. They got a great job description called the quicken the heart of the church. I love that. Quicken the heart of the church. And our church recognizes that we live within an ecumenical community. The image I would like to share, and with my fingers, very technological here, is a mountain. And at the top is the sacred. And one path is the Christian path, and another path is the Buddhist path, the Sikh path. And these paths are very distinct and different, and yet they lead to the same place. And so one of the very important ethos within the United Church is to respect and honor different traditions, of which this makes perfect sense during Harmony Week, that these different traditions are different ways of experiencing the sacred, and we honor and respect that difference. I believe that the God that we worship within the United Church is what's called panentheistic. God is both beyond us and within us, and that is an important theology to understand. That we don't believe God is off in the sky so much as God is both mystery beyond us, capital N, and also within each and every one of us. Our approach to Scripture is what I would say serious, but not literal. That is, we take Scripture seriously, but we recognize that it is not literal in many cases. All right, when we think about salvation, we think about salvation as at its root, salve, which is about healing. And we trust that all is well in life beyond death, but our job, as Jesus pointed out often, was this work in this world. And so for us in the United Church of Canada, we're glad to be part of this week, to connect with other brothers and sisters from different traditions, and to engage and learn about what's different and what unites us. So I don't want to talk anymore. I'd rather you offer questions that may be important to you as you think about the United Church of Canada.